so much, Charu. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for making it to this office, having us do this in person. And most importantly, we are honored to have you on the list of our top marketing leaders.
I've been in this space for about 14 years now,
Wow.
and my journey in this space has been anything but conventional. I did my master's in economics, and I was all set to be a financial advisor or
Awesome.
an economist. And as it so happens, like my first job, we were working on a financial product, and it was a financial website, and it was a subscription based website.
Right.
And back in 2008, that wasn't so popular. So when we started to sell the product, and I told my founders, like, I want to be part of the marketing team because I've worked so hard on this. And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll guide you. And we were. And back in the day, marketing was so simple. We had just started putting out some content on Facebook, and those were the days when Orkut used to exist.
Right.
And as and when we were doing that, I realized that, my passion lies more in this space. I'm more of a creative person.
Right.
And I took the risk. I took that jump, I took the leap of faith, and I was like, I switched to social media marketing. And like I said, in these 14 years, one of the key things that I've learned is to treat each audience and each customer and each user individually, right? Like for each brand. And I've been on the agency side for many, many years. And, it's a fast-paced industry. You move from one campaign to the other to the third. There's never a time where, like, okay, let's start this, finish this, and we'll jump on to the other one.
Right.
And having doing that, it's very easy for someone to fall prey to a templated version, right? There's no one size that fits all.
Totally.
And, keeping that in mind, you got to think about what this audience needs with respect to this brand. And to give you an example, I've had the privilege to work with some of the biggest brands in the country, and Whisper Touch the Pickle was one such campaign which won a Cannes Award. And the audience is Indian women. And back in 2011-12, when we conceived this campaign, we realized that women were still feeling shy talking about periods in the public space on Facebook. And there we go. Like, we decided to create a movement, and we decided to break period taboos. And to give you another example of a similar audience, which is for Enamor, which is a lingerie brand, they wanted to talk about how size matters. And when we spoke to women, we realized it does matter.
It does.
No pun intended. But, we realized that this is a very preachy topic to tell a woman that, okay, your bra size is probably wrong, and hey, you should come and measure yourself.
Right.
We were like, how about we create a little funny and, slightly humorous angle to it, and, give it a fun spin, and that's what will catch their attention. And we launched the campaign called Size Does Matter.
Oh, wow.
Where, we interviewed 5 women, and, so it's the same audience, similar audience. It's the same Indian women who are consuming sanitary pads from Whisper and who are also buying lingerie.
Right.
But the approach to the two was very different. For Enamor, we did not launch a movement. Right. For Whisper, we launched a movement. So keeping this in mind, and in fact, if you look at my journey, it's anything but a template or anything but the usual case which is there. And I made that switch, and I have been, evolving with the journey of social media. It's now become content marketing. It used to be social media marketing, right? There were agencies that were created specifically for social media marketing. Back then, paid marketing was just starting out. Running ads on Facebook was, pretty fairly simple task. And from there to now, today you have like so many things out there. It's a complicated thing that you have specialized people for each of these divisions of marketing, right? And from there, I moved on to the B2B space, and which is where I am right now for the past 1 year. And carrying on my learning, I decided that, and the typical perception about a B2B industry is that it's very boring. It's very technical, to the point, and simple, formal English. If you look at the same concept of finding an insight and finding and understanding the audience, you will realize that you're talking to a human at the end of the day. He or she might be taking a decision for a business, but the content that they're consuming and the person that you're speaking with still needs to be able to consume that content, enjoy that content, and be able to get something out of it, right? And if you always keep it very technical and boring, everybody is going to be absolutely the same. So that's been my mission here at the B2B space. And for the past 1 year, we've been creating some really cool very interesting, very fun content, and
Awesome.
I'm really proud of the work that we've done here at Hiver. Not just from 10, 12, 14 years back, I'm even going back to our childhood days. There was television,
Right.
there was print, there were some
Right.
hoardings, and there was radio. Jingles used to do amazingly well, and we
Right.
all remember some of those jingles, and we fondly remember them,
Right.
right? But there was less content, less consumption. It was more of a one-way communication from brands to the consumers.
Right.
Versus a few years later, or when I started my journey in this space, things were still very, very simple. Algorithms were not what you would worry about. You would worry
Right.
about saying something that will connect with the audience.
Correct.
You'll put out a post on Facebook and you will use Twitter. Twitter had just started back in 2008,
Right.
9. And there used to be forums, and people still had the opportunity of connecting with consumers. Brands still had the opportunity of connecting with consumers on a very one-on-one basis.
Right.
And cut to a few years later, which is today, it has become so much more complicated.
Right.
It is overcrowded.
Absolutely.
There are way too many brands, and there are way too much of content, and there's way too many avenues where a consumer can consume this
Right.
content, and there's limited mind space, right? And I think that's how the marketing has evolved. And now what you also have is a lot of technology.
Totally.
That which has been created to solve for this problem itself, right? Like
Right.
if it was just one medium and one channel, you would want to create like a certain type of an ad which works.
Right.
But now there are 1,000 mediums and 1,000 different ways in which you can reach out to the consumer.
Correct.
And it totally depends on where the brand is in that space and time,
Right.
and what stage they are at. If it's a young brand, they would want to create awareness as well as acquire consumers. Whereas if it's an established brand campaigns anyways happen, but they also need to focus on a number of other things, right?
Right,
So
right.
depending on where you are, your choice will differ. But marketing has become a lot more complex, and you also have that many more tools
Right.
to kind of make this task a little easier for yourself.
Right.
And like I said, one of the key things that I personally focus on is finding the right insight and creating something that will connect with the audience. Well, the challenges I think have also evolved
Right.
from what it was. But in the current scenario, I think a brand has several business problems, right? And no business problem can be solved with one single solution, right? So marketing solution. So it's like a multiplier effect. There are 10 business problems, and then there's going to be 100 marketing solutions. So you'll got
Right.
to prioritize and deprioritize, right? The challenges today are a lot more complex, and each brand has several business problems, right? It's not one business problem, and each business problem needs several marketing solutions. So it's like a multiplier effect. Say you have 4 business problems at hand, you're going to
Right.
have multiple marketing solutions that you're going to think about.
Right.
And the challenge that a marketer faces is that, how to prioritize and deprioritize some of these, while all of them are equally important. And to give you another example, marketing is more, point in time, whereas brand marketing is a long-term marketing,
Right.
So you do invest in creating content which will help you get revenue and help you get leads, or do you invest in creating content that is going to help people remember your brand?
Right.
Like, Coke is a perfect example. There are so many iconic brands that you see their logo or you hear the words and you'll immediately recognize them, but that's something which they've done over the years, right? So for a small brand or a medium-sized brand, this is always a challenge that they're going to face. And, they probably need a flywheel model where basically, the growth continues to happen. They turn their existing customers into their evangelists, brand
Right.
evangelists, and then they help you get more leads. So it's like a cycle that kind of continues for your brand. But the
Right.
challenge that the marketers face is always this trade-off, and also to kind of figure out, if I'm doing a brand campaign or if I'm doing this campaign, how do I measure the success of it?
Right.
What is the ROI? That
Absolutely.
ROI is the single biggest question that is always asked, and that is why, and not everything will give you an ROI,
Correct.
right? So
Right.
it might give you an ROI in the long run. Something might give you an ROI in terms of leads and revenue immediately.
Right.
So you got to know what is going to give you what, and then take a decision based on that.
Absolutely.
So that's, I think, one of the most pressing challenges that the marketer faces in today's day and age. And I think the hygiene stuff of like, that too many brands, too much content, all of that is always going to be there, and it's going to continue like this, right?
Right.
It's only going to go up from here. It's only going to increase the mind space. It's only going to reduce. So as long as you decide and figure out what is that one most important business problem that you're trying to solve for, and hence these are the 5 things that I need to do for it. I think you should be able to prioritize and deprioritize, but it's always going to be a challenge. There's no set formula for this, right? Well, I think AI is here to stay, and AI is solving for a lot of problems that the marketers face.
Right.
But having said that, AI is not going to take over or will not be able to take over the human intervention that you need.
Right.
Like an AI can suggest what a social media strategy should be, or what a social media post should be like, or it can write a blog for you, or it can write an email for you and do a lot more. But what that brand ethos is and what the brand stands for is something that you need to do as a human, right? You need that human intervention. If you've written a original piece of content, what you can actually do and where you can take advantage of AI is like, say for example, ask for it to give you a Twitter thread around that original piece of content.
Right.
So instead of resisting something which is going to make your life easier, I think it's time to shake hands with it.
Right.
And it's great for research. It's great for it's a great starting point. And those fighting it very hard, unfortunately, I think it's here to stay, and it's not going anywhere. So don't worry, I don't think AI is going to take over the human angle, but AI is here to assist you in your job, and don't rely on AI completely for everything also. I would rather say that, use it just to kind of make your life easier and enhance your work, do your research, maybe, find a starting point, and that's pretty much it. I think a few years back, Instagram was introduced, right? And Facebook up until then used to be everything. And Twitter was very, very popular. And then suddenly Instagram came and took over everything. Like Orkut died a few years ago. So the point I'm trying to make is that something or the other will keep coming, and your journey and your tools and your platforms will keep evolving. And you've got to evolve along with it. You can't be stuck in a bubble saying that, no, this is the only way that I will do my marketing. And you got to take advantage of it. When you say get your content right, what is bad content, or what is content that's average, or what is content that's not working? Do you remember all the last 10 reels that you watched?
No.
Because some of them would have captured your attention, some of them will not. There is too much content. There's very little mind space. There's a lot happening, and that is why I'd like to go back to the original point that I was making, that you got to understand the audience, you've got to understand their psychology, you've got to understand how it fits in the entire journey of the brand, and what role are you playing as a brand for the consumer, right? So for the same audience, 2 different brands, your strategy could be very, very different. And another thing that helps in creating great content is to be honest to your brand, and be simple, and be not necessarily simple, but be true to yourself, right? And once you understand the audience, and once you try and focus on the feelings, you want to elicit some kind of response from them, right? Capturing that insight and eliciting that response is extremely important. And the other thing that you need to really, really do well is to consistently do it. Like I was giving you the example of Coke earlier. Coke, McDonald's, Nike, all of them are amazing examples of brands that have done this for years. You see a partial M of McDonald's, you'll be able to figure out this is McDonald's.
Absolutely.
And to give you a recent example, a brand that I recently came across is Bliss Club. And they have been doing great marketing. So I liked what I initially seen. But then I've been seeing it again and again and again and again. So when you consistently keep giving the right message to your audience, or the brand message to the audience, it also creates a recall value. Of course, if your product is not good, or your product is not doing what it's supposed to do, you will be lost in the plethora of things that are there. But if your product is good and you are creating a great piece of content that is relatable, another important factor is to create something which is relatable. Something that you yourself will want to watch and enjoy, and not just plaster the consumer by saying, like, it's not sale, 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 sale.
Right.
Right? You're talking about something, you believe in something, you've got to do that.
Right.
You've got to be able to show that. One of the things which is my personal, I take pride in this is that, at Hiver, we figured out what is the passion of our employees and what is their strength.
Right.
So when we figured that a lot of them are musicians, some sing, some play guitar, and some are lyricists, some rap music. So music was like pretty much there in the ethos of the brand, and we were like, hey, how about we utilize that? Because then when you're creating that piece of content, you are enjoying it so much.
Totally.
You're having so much fun that it reflects.
Right.
And it's something which is slightly different. Like, for example, we wanted to do a year-end, summary of what we've achieved in the entire year.
Right.
And a typical approach would be just to put carousels, or maybe create a video, or something on those lines. And we were like, hey, how about we ask one of our team members to rap about it?
Oh, how nice.
So we created a year-end rap.
Wow.
And that was so unique. And I understand that a consumer might not go through or understand each and every line.
Absolutely.
But they're not going to read a carousel either. Right?
That's
like, why will I be so interested in figuring out like what has your brand achieved in the entire year, and I will go through each and every. I've not done that for Apple also.
Right.
So forget about any other brand. Like,
Correct.
people have limited mind space. So what will stand out is that, hey, these guys know how to sing, and they've done something really cool.
Very cool.
That's the impression that, that's the mind space that you can capture.
Right.
So what is great content? A content that fits your audience, where you're honest, you're having fun, you're creating something that is, eliciting a certain feeling in them, whether it's humor, or it's fear, or it's fun, or it's something which is, a pain point for them.
Correct.
That's something which I would call as great content, and just do it consistently.